What's up, everybody? This video is going to be a little bit disturbing, but I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had. Because if this conversation is not had, I think bad things happen. And maybe some people will accuse me of fear-mongering, but quite frankly, I think a healthy level of fear is a good thing. Because the opposite of fear mongering is being completely carefree and acting like there is no problem at all. And honestly, that future where everyone doesn't believe that there's going to be a problem is more scary to me than everyone at least being a little bit afraid, so that way we're a little bit more cautious and maybe prepared for some of the things that are coming. For those of you who do not know who I am, hi. My name is Blue Drake. I have done a lot of things and I have a lot of experience in the industry, even if people try to tell you that I don't. I am a YouTuber with over 1 million subscribers. I run a game development studio with games on Steam with millions of downloads, and I have contracted for a huge number of big companies for over a decade in the industry. Some of these contracts have been as an influencer where I get paid to help with promotional campaigns. Some of these contracts are as a developer. In fact, this jacket right here was given to me by Ubisoft when I was representing them as an exhibitor on the floor of E3, which, you know, when I say the words E3, you know how long ago that must have been. But when you watch this video, understand that I'm not just a nobody making these statements. I am somebody who has been around for a long time, and I have seen things about how these companies operate in ways that nobody else, well, maybe not nobody, but very few people have had the privilege to see. In addition to that, I am currently doing my graduate degree in machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is a lot of what this video is going to be about. Now, keep in mind, I don't really expect this video to blow up and get a huge number of views. This video is going to be for the people who want to know about this and maybe even need to know about this. One of the more troubling things I've seen in the industry is your average person, your average game player, does not seem to care about these things as much as they probably should. And even though I know that everything I'm going to say in this video is not a particularly popular opinion, it is still something that I know a lot of people are concerned about, and I want to make this video so that those people can at least have more information about this and hopefully better prepare themselves. In addition to things that are related to the video game industry, there are some other things related to national security when we talk about this technology and how it's being utilized that don't just affect consumers, but I think also affect citizens of the country, because there are ways that these systems can be used to exploit not just people to make them buy certain products or do certain things or scam people, but I think there are also some national security concerns. And as part of my work in the game development industry, one of the things that I was lucky enough to do was be invited to a number of different conferences where companies show off their technology, some technology related to what I'm going to be talking about here as it relates to defense, as it relates to national security. Now, when I went to those conferences, I actually went as an individual of the press. So keep in mind, all of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about here, it's public information. This is stuff that is not secret. This is stuff that is not classified. But I think the fact that this stuff isn't classified, the fact that this is public knowledge, should make you realize how serious of a situation this is, because this is stuff that is out there in the open right now that people have the ability to use in order to take advantage of you, that in order to protect yourself, I think you need to know about. And it's going to affect the game industry. It's going to affect other things outside of the game industry. This is a conversation that is already being had a lot in the defense industry. And based on my experience, a lot of people are extremely concerned about this. But it has reached a point where I don't think this should just be a conversation in the defense industry. It has reached a point where I personally believe that this should be a public conversation that everyone needs to be having. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get into what I want to talk about. Artificial intelligence is an incredible tool. I think it can be a tool for good. I am obviously doing my degree in artificial intelligence because I think it's incredible and I want to learn more about it. However, I also entirely recognize that it can be a force for bad as well. It can be used to create incredible things, and it can be used to hurt and manipulate people in terrifying ways. And one of the reasons that I want to study it so much and I want to learn as much as I can about it is because I want to understand which of those ways are which. What are the ways that it can be used for good? What are the ways that it can be used for bad? And what companies, what people are already utilizing it in ways that are good, and what people are already utilizing it in ways that are bad. And even though this is still very early in the whole story arc of whatever AI is going to be and however it's going to be a part of society, I think I already have a lot of information to indicate which is which. And that's one of the things that we're going to be going into. So first off, before we get into AI, I want to talk about something that AI uses in order to make itself smarter, which is data. Now, I know that data is a word that makes everybody's mind gloss over with boredom, and unfortunately, it should not have that effect because it is definitely one of the more boring topics to learn about, but it is also one of the things that, unbeknownst to most people, can be used to hurt you in ways that I don't think a lot of people understand or appreciate. And that's one of the reasons data is one of the most important things in the industry. When you look at the big salaries, when you look at people who get paid the most, it's people that work with data. All kinds of data. Data about you, data about your habits, data about different companies and trends and behavior patterns, all sorts of stuff. Data is king. And while I feel like 10 years ago, if somebody said, hey man, data can be used to hurt you, people would be like, I don't care if people steal my data. What are they going to do? Artificial intelligence and the AI models that are coming out now, I feel like are the answer to that question. Having a whole bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet about you is not scary. But when you get to a point where you can take all of those numbers on a spreadsheet about you and then create an AI model that mimics you and steals your identity and acts exactly like you, and doesn't just act like you, but uses the fact that it acts like you to scam other people who you are related to or do other things that I don't even think most people realize is a threat, that's when you're going to realize exactly how much data can be leveraged to hurt you. Like, let me put it this way. I'm sure a lot of you guys get scam mail of Nigerian princes asking for money. And I would say 90% of you, not all, because some of you definitely fall for that, but 90% of you, you're going to say, well, I'm not worried about those kinds of scams because, you know, those kinds of scams are obvious. It's obvious a scam. What if I told you in the next couple of years, you're not going to just have somebody emailing you acting like they're a Nigerian prince that needs money? What if I told you you're going to get a phone call from your grandmother with her voice asking for money because she just got into a car wreck and it's an emergency. She needs it right now. And before you realize that that is an AI that somebody created using your personal data in order to scam you and steal identity of your friends and family in order to create that scam, before you even realize that that is happening, they will already have taken thousands and thousands of dollars or have done other things to you that are way worse. That's where we're going with this conversation. And while we're going to definitely get into examples later of use cases that scammers and bad actors are going to use against you, let's talk about the most important thing, which is how they get that information to start with, how they gather that data to start with. And I am going to say the vast majority of data gathered about you, it's gathered online. And a lot of you guys don't realize how much information you're giving up, and I'm not just talking about social media, all right? You post a photo of your cat on Facebook, sure, that's personal data, but that isn't the data that I'm most scared of being taken. Some of the data that I am really worried about being stolen from users and used in bad ways comes from you playing video games, and I'm going to tell you why. Many of you all have probably seen the most recent release of Delta Force, a first-person shooter game. It's really good. Everybody is downloading it. Everybody is installing it. And yet, if you go on Steam, it has a near 50% score where a lot of people are really upset. And they're not upset because it's a bad game. That's the craziest thing. It's actually a good game. So what are they upset about? They are upset about something that is becoming more common in the industry, and it really shouldn't be. It should not be common. And that is anti-cheat systems that employ certain types of permissions on your computer that give them way more access than they should have to everything about you. And why is this a bad thing? Because you might have some people saying, well, they just need it in order to fight cheaters, and maybe you even trust the studio. Maybe you think the studio is a good studio, and you think that they aren't going to hurt you. You think that they aren't malicious. And I'm sure if Delta Force were to make a public statement about this, they would even say, hey, we're not going to use your data. We're not going to abuse the permissions that we get from your computer. And when they say that, maybe they're even being honest. Maybe that studio actually doesn't want to use those systems to actually exploit you. But here's the problem, and there's a couple of aspects about this. In most cases, I'm not even worried about the studio themselves using this information maliciously. I don't think that that is the problem. The problem are other people out there who are not that studio, who are smart enough in order to take advantage of that studio and take advantage of the systems that they've installed to your computer in order to get that information. And those people are criminals. Those people were never supposed to have access to that data. And even though the studio might say, hey, we're going through every single precaution to make sure that criminals can't access that data, a good example as to why the intentions and assurances of a company do not factor into this conversation is December of 2023, when one of the largest data aggregators that was storing data on almost every single American had the social security numbers of almost every single American stolen from them by a criminal organization. So the point is if we cannot have 100% assurance that these systems aren't going to be implemented in a way that are going to protect you forever, why are they being implemented at all? Because the other thing as well is when you install these games, you install them on Steam, right? What is Steam's most important feature? Why do people like buying games on Steam? Why aren't you going out and getting games on CD anymore? Well, it's because Steam has the ability to automatically update that game with any changes that need to be added at any time automatically. Let me say that again. All games that you download on Steam have the ability to install any update and change everything about how they operate on your system at any point in the future ever. And as someone who has games on Steam, I understand how Steam works. And it's ironic because Steam's backend is called Steamworks. But anyways, pun aside, I know the technical backend for Steam and the logistics of Steam. And I know that once you have a game on Steam, once you already have it out there and people are installing it, Steam does not have the manpower to check every single update for every single game that goes out. They barely have enough time to respond to my support tickets. Like, seriously, there is a 48, sometimes 7-day delay for even our game, which has nearly 4 million downloads, to get a response to a support ticket. So do you really think that if there was a malicious update launched for a game, Steam would catch it in time to stop that update being applied to millions and millions and millions of people before it's too late? So these systems that give these studios access to your entire computer, not just parts of it, everything, the whole computer, every single credit card number that you have, every single password that you have. And before people say, oh, well, what about encryption? Sure, maybe you have your passwords encrypted. Sure, maybe you have your wallets, bank accounts, all of that stuff encrypted. Have you not also seen that there are new chipsets coming out that are quantum chipsets that have the ability to do 25 million years worth of work in 5 minutes? There are criminals that when they get this information, they know that it is encrypted. They store it, and as technology continues to advance and they have the ability to break that encryption, they break through all of that. In fact, we don't even know how advanced these encryption breaking systems are, because there are some criminals that have really good encryption breaking software that people don't even know that they have yet. So the point is you shouldn't say, oh, well, my passwords are encrypted. Oh, my bank accounts are encrypted, so I don't worry if people steal them. They should not be able to steal them at all, because you can't decrypt something that you can't physically access. But as soon as you have the ability to physically access your entire computer, all bets are off. And even though the studio might say, hey, we'll never exploit this, right? First off, can you trust that studio forever? even if you trust them now, do you trust them for the rest of your life while that game is installed to your computer? You guys have seen how companies go, right? CEOs change hands. I don't know. Stuff happens in different countries. Maybe there's a coup. Maybe, who knows? Whatever. But are you going to trust not just the version of the company that exists right now managing that system that has complete access to your data, but are you going to continue trusting that company for the rest of your life? Can you really assure yourself and everyone else that at no point in the future ever that an update might be launched that then changes those systems to now not only having full access to your entire computer, but now it is being used maliciously? And can you also promise that that company that's implemented those systems is never going to have a breach where a third party that is a criminal ring actually takes advantage of that company and then gets access to your data anyways because that company did not know how to secure their systems well enough to make them impervious from third-party actors? Can you assure yourself and everyone else that that will never happen? This is kind of a rhetorical question because no, you can't. No, you can't. So the point is you should not be letting these systems be installed to your computer. Period. You should not. And exactly what are these systems? What is the name of this system that I'm concerned about? And I'll just say this. It does not have a specific name. The point is that there are a wide variety of softwares that all have different names and all have different brands that allow themselves to have this level of access. But one thing that you can look at is the kernel level of access that these systems have. And if you go and look at the negative reviews on Delta Force, and I don't want this to just be a dog on Delta Force because they are not the only ones doing this. They are not the only ones. But if you go and look at the reviews, the main complaint is this is giving kernel access to my computer. When I install this, it is giving kernel level access to my entire computer. The people who are savvy enough to see this, they're seeing when they install Delta Force, it installs a kernel level system on their computer. And there are reports, I have not installed Delta Force, and I probably will not until they take this feature out. There are reports that even after you uninstall the game, the kernel level access that it installed is still there. Now, what is kernel? What is kernel level? What does that even mean? Let me explain to you. If you were to go to Wikipedia and look up the definition of kernel, you will know that it is a core part of the entire computer system. It is essentially the absolute bottom of the barrel when it comes to all applications that are running. It is the lowest that has access to everything because at a certain point, everything has to start somewhere, right? Even if you add in security measures like passwords and all of this stuff, at the end of the day, you go down that whole freaking tree. At the very bottom of that tree is the kernel. And if you install something that is installed at kernel level, well, then essentially it has access to everything. If you do not believe me, you can look this up yourself. This is not a conspiracy. This is not some weird magical term that I am making up. This is a well-established concept inside of computer science. Now, many of you might say, well, that's crazy. How are these companies able to get that level of a security compromising piece of software on my computer without my permission? And that's the craziest thing about all of this. They aren't doing it without your permission. They are getting your permission because you're giving them permission when you go through all of those terms of services, when you go through all of those agreements and you go through the installation process, you are implicitly giving them permission to install these systems to your computer. Do you even read those things? Do you even look at what you're agreeing to? I'm going to say probably not, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult for Microsoft or really anybody to protect you from yourself when you are actually allowing these changes to be made to your computer, because they can't really stop you. If somebody gives you an installer and in that installer it guides you through the process of installing these systems that compromise your security and you say yes, Nobody's going to stop you from doing that. And one of the ways that companies are getting lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people to agree to installing these extremely problematic pieces of software to millions of computers is through video games. Video games that you really, 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 really want to play. Video games that when you download and you run the installer, tell you, hey, we know you really want to play this game, but before you can play this, we're going to have to install this system to your computer. It gives us full access to everything you do on your entire computer forever. Is that okay? And then you say yes. That's how these systems are getting onto the computers of millions and millions of users. And I would say this is now getting to a point, especially since installing these systems is becoming more and more normalized, where people just seem to not care, which means even more people are installing them on all of these computers in ways that if anything were to ever change in the future, if the studio became compromised, either because they were taken over by another studio, they were taken over by another government body, or maybe they weren't taken over at all, but a third-party criminal organization was able to figure out how to breach those systems and exploit that software that they've installed to your computer, if any of those things were to ever happen at any point in the future after this software has been installed, suddenly this goes from not a problem to a big, serious, malicious problem like that. And the problem only becomes worse when you realize that the systems that are being installed to your computer, many of these pieces of software, many of these games are being created by companies that are operating outside of the jurisdiction of your country. And I don't want anybody to accuse me of xenophobia. I don't want anybody to accuse me of bigotry, because let me just assure you, this has nothing to do with that. And I want to make sure that that is not used as an excuse to sidestep this very serious problem. Because at the end of the day, if you have software on your computer that gives another body these level of permissions, especially when it's at a scale where it's almost like a huge percentage of the country that has been compromised with these systems, but all of those systems are connected to a company that is in a completely different country that is not even governed by that local country's jurisdiction, that is a problem. Because if there was ever to be a change, if there was ever to be a situation where this system goes from not malicious to malicious for any of those reasons that I described, you probably wouldn't even know about it until it's too late. Do you have operational oversight of these companies? No. Do you have access to the governments that are overseeing these companies that are based in other countries? No. If there is a third-party breach where any of these companies are compromised by a third-party criminal organization that is able to get access to these systems, can you be assured that you are actually going to be notified of those breaches? No. I mean, those are all rhetorical questions. There is no way to assure yourself or anyone else that you will be notified of any of those problems that occur in another country that are outside of your jurisdiction. And if that is the case, why are you installing the software? Why are you agreeing to have these systems put on your computer? Because this is becoming not just an industry issue. Like I said, I work in the industry, I'm a gamer, and I am a video game developer. I am not a politician, I am not a general, I am not a special forces soldier. But at the same time, this is reaching a point where, as an American citizen who's getting a graduate degree studying data, I am starting to recognize that this could easily and quickly become a massive national security issue overnight if the wrong things were to happen at the wrong time. And I'll tell you what, I would be significantly less concerned if everything in the world was just hunky-dory right now. If everybody was super chill and we had absolutely no concerns of the entire world descending into a massive global war at any moment, and, we were all just prancing around with daisies in our hair, I would be like, all right, well, maybe it's not an issue. But that's not how the world is right now, is it? I would say there is more contention than ever before, and there is more of a concern that things could go bad at any time than ever before. And based on conflicts that we have been watching in other countries, information, data like this is key. Having the ability to get massive amounts of information at a single point in time when it is needed decides the outcome of wars, decides the outcome of battles, decides the outcome of engagements. And having access to every single person's computer of another country, where you can flip a switch and immediately get everything you need to make informed decisions about how to engage another competing government body, either on the battlefield or elsewhere, is a massive piece of leverage. And even if the existing companies do not think that that is the reason why they are doing these things, the fact that it could be utilized as such at any point in the future should be something that everyone should be aware of and be concerned about. And before anybody says, oh, they wouldn't do that because that's illegal, I'm not even going to begin to tell you why that's a stupid argument. Because when it comes down to it, all right, when the iron is in the fire, the only thing that matters is what a man can do, a man will do. All right? Laws will not matter. None of this stuff will matter, especially if the companies that have access to this kind of information are operating outside of your governing body. And keep in mind, I am an American. I am an American citizen. I am a patriot. This warning is not just for Americans. This is for everyone that is in their own countries. If you are piping data out of that country to another country, especially if that country is in competition to you, you better have a damn good reason to do that. And I wanted to cover the systems that are being installed first. Next, I want to cover specifically how these systems can be used to exploit and hurt you in ways that I just don't think people appreciate. How many of you guys have been seeing the YouTubers that are getting hacked and putting up those fake Bitcoin, Tesla, Elon Musk deepfake AI things? Have you guys seen that scam? That scam goes like this. A scamming ring takes control of some huge big YouTuber's channel. And once they take over that channel, they completely rebrand it to look like SpaceX or Tesla or whatever. And then they run a crypto giveaway where you have to send them crypto and then you get your amounts back twice, twofold, which is obviously stupid. They're not going to do that. As soon as you send them money, they just keep that money. And since it's crypto, you're never going to be able to get it back. You're not going to be able to report it to anybody. You're not going to be able to get the authorities involved. That money is gone. But the real question isn't how are they scamming you, because I feel like a lot of people know the scam. The real question is how the hell are they getting access to all of these huge YouTubers' channels? You'd think that YouTube and all of these YouTubers would have their security locked down where they wouldn't be just losing their channels like that. Are they just responding to stupid emails of Nigerian princes who want admin access to their channel? Is that really how that's going down? No. That's not how that's going down. And I'm going to show you exactly how those scammers are getting access to all of those big channels and duping some of the smartest people in the industry. Now, this is just one example, and I want to tell you, there is a rabbit hole of examples of this stuff being used maliciously, but I feel like this is one that is going to be useful for other YouTubers to know, and is also going to be a good example for everybody who follows YouTube and understands how these YouTubers operate. What is the one thing that YouTubers typically do when they don't have enough money and they need more? I mean, other than crowdfunding some crypto scam, they are going to do sponsorships, right? Sponsorships are king. You get sponsorships that often pay 10 times, 100 times the amount of money that you would get when you create a normal video. And content creators know this, which is why sponsorships are so attractive, even for ones who say that, you know, they would never do a sponsorship because it biases their coverage until they see the money. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that's how much? And then they agree to do it anyways. Now, there is a scam that has started over the last 6 months to a year that I am starting to see being more and more effective as it goes on. And the scam goes like this. You will get an email because this is the primary way that YouTubers get sponsorships. You'll notice in all of their descriptions, they'll say, hey, if you're interested in reaching out for business purposes, here's my business email. That is the go-to way that a lot of these content creators get sponsorship offers. And the way that these scammers are getting access to the channels of these YouTubers is they are sending a sponsorship offer to that email. And I would actually go as far to say that I think some real sponsorships are a part of this scam. I think that some of these scammers are actually sending a sponsorship offer and then actually going through with the sponsorship in order to make it look like they are a legitimate company. Because the amount of money these scammers probably make from scamming the audiences of these YouTubers is probably so much money that they could actually do a real sponsorship, pay $2,000, $3,000 in the beginning in order to gain that creator's trust. But after they gain that creator's trust, what they do is they send a sponsorship email. And a lot of the times I've noticed they use AI to do this because they do this on a massive scale. They hit almost every single content creator on the space, on the YouTube platform, on Facebook platform, in the industry at the same exact time before anybody has enough time to red flag them for this scam that is going down. And they will send an offer, a letter that is tailored to you and your content. Because you may not know this, but you can actually write bots that download the transcript of every single video you've ever made. YouTube, they have this nice feature where they will automatically detect every word you're saying in the video and close caption it. Right? Did you know that you can actually write a bot that goes onto YouTube and downloads every single transcript for every single video that you've ever made? And after you do that, you can use that information and you can train an AI. And after you've trained that AI, it knows everything about you. It knows your thoughts. It knows your opinions. It knows the kinds of products that you're promoting. It knows everything. So when you get an email, it's not, hey, I'm a Nigerian prince. It says, hey, Blue Drake, man, I loved your video from 2 weeks ago. I am a huge fan of Rainbow Six Siege as well. Anyways, we've got this contract for you. It pays a couple of $1,000s. Would you be interested in doing this? We are way far from Nigerian prince scams, my man. And see, that's the thing. We're going to get to a point where the Nigerian prince scams aren't really meant to trick smart people. They're meant to trick stupid people. You're not going to scam 90% of the world, but you're going to scam 10% of the world who is just dumb enough to fall for those kinds of things. But the issue with these new scams that are coming out is you're not going to be successfully scamming 10% of the world. You're going to be successfully scamming 20, 30, 40, 50%. As these scams get better, they're going to trick more people because they're going to be convincing. And they are going to socially engineer, they are going to hack, and they're not going to just do it brute force. They're going to do it with information that is targeted about you, that allows them to hit you, not with a mass email where they're, sending you so much spam that you know that it's a scam. No, they're going to know exactly when to send the email. They're going to know exactly what to say. And then after they get you to agree to something, they're going to know exactly what to do in order to gain your trust, in order to get you to do one thing. And that is, at least in the case of this scam where they're taking advantage of everybody, is to download a Trojan file or some kind of virus that gives them access to everything on your computer. But after they get access to your system, they can get access to your two-factor authentication, they can get access to whatever they need to not just scam you, but get into your channel and then run a scam where they scam every single one of your followers. That is how that one specific scam is going. And the place that they're getting all of the data in order to train the AIs that are conducting these scams are from the data breaches of products and software and companies that have been installing kernel level systems that access all of your information that later gets stolen and exploited from games just like Delta Force. And it's actually funny because this scam where they're trying to take over YouTube channels, I actually get emails of them attempting to take mine on a regular basis. I have actually written AI in order to help detect the AI scams. Because in many cases, a lot of these scams, a lot of these AI exploits, the only way to reliably counter them is by building your own AI defense systems, your own AI counters, which is hilarious. But that's the level of sophistication that these scams and significantly worse things, if it comes to that, are operating at. Now, you might say, oh, well, I don't have anything to worry about because I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not a celebrity. Here's the thing. As these systems become more advanced, and not just as they get more advanced, but as they also train AI on more of your personal data, they are going to get better and better at not just going after celebrities, not just going after YouTubers, but going after you. You're going to get a call from your grandmother. It might even be from her number. And she is going to talk to you in a voice that sounds like hers. And she's going to beg you for money because she's in a car wreck or some other emergency. And before you even realize that it's not her, they are already going to get everything that they needed. And the way that they will have gotten the data that they're going to use to train the AI that is going to know your grandmother's name, that's going to know her phone number and your phone number and know everything that it needs in order to conduct that scam against you personally. The way it's going to know all of that stuff is because you installed some game from 3 years ago that you gave full access to your entire computer that you never uninstalled, or if you did, that system stayed there, that at some point in the future, there's either a breach or that company changes hands or something happens, and now all of that information on your computer got out. And then that information is used against you. And the craziest thing is you may never even realize that that is how that happened. When you actually get scammed and all of this goes down, you may never actually learn the truth on how they were able to do that. But that's why I'm telling you right now that when that is happening, to not just you, but probably a lot of people, this is how. This is how it happened. And to wrap this video up, I want to say a few things. First off, what do I want out of this video? I just want people to be more vigilant. I want people to be more aware that this is a problem. You all might have seen, I've been really frustrated with a lot of influencers that are getting paid money to promote products that have these kinds of systems and are not telling you all about the risks. And this is the reason why. This video detailing all of this information is the reason why I am extremely concerned about that. Because, look, as an influencer myself, okay, again, I have been doing this for 10 plus years. I am a content creator. I know more content creators more intimately than I want to. Like, I know how they think, I know how they work, I know how they operate, and the problem is a lot of influencers, I would say the majority, are stupid. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but a lot of influencers in this space are complete idiots. They're idiots. And unfortunately, it's getting to a point where I think that these companies know that. Because not only do these influencers not understand these problems, they're just not smart enough to understand that these issues exist. But unfortunately, for better or for worse, these influencers are also in control of massive amounts of people. You've seen it. You've seen how influencers utilize their fan base to attack people, how they use their fan base to influence entire markets. But they're also not smart enough to see these problems. And these companies know, they know that if they pay off these influencers, they can steer the public narrative in directions that they need to in order to get more installs. Now, why are they doing this? Are they doing it because they're just your standard corporate greedy company and they just want more money? Probably. Are they doing it because they want to compromise an entire country and get access, kernel level access, to every single citizen, or at least a troubling percentage of citizens in that country? I don't know, maybe not, but does it make a difference? Does it make a difference? Because, like I said on Twitter, it's like you're giving somebody a gun, letting them point it at your head, but then saying, well, I'm safe, because they're not going to pull the trigger. It doesn't matter the reasons why. It doesn't matter the reasons why they are asking you to let them hold a gun to your head. Okay? You just shouldn't allow it to happen. Because what if they change their mind? What if somebody else takes that gun and shoots you with it? What if a million things? Those are all very good reasons why you should not allow companies to point guns at your head anyways. Like, seriously. So when it comes to these systems that are bundled with these games that are used to fight cheaters or whatever, honestly, the solution is worse than the problem. If you want to have anti-cheat systems in your game that give full access to the entire computer, at the bare minimum, that should be optional. If you want people to have a computer that is compromised, I mean, by goodness, I guess I can't stop people from letting you do that. But these games should at least be significantly more clear about the level of security that these individuals are giving up. And it should absolutely be not mandatory. It should be an option. It should not be required to play that game. I would even go as far to say that games that do this should be banned, quite frankly. I think that we are at a time where the security risk is so great that games that ask for these levels of permissions should be banned. Absolutely. But if we're not going to go that far, if we're not going to actually ban them, because again, my goodness, I believe in freedom. I guess even freedom for companies outside of our country to take advantage of us. But if we're going to say that that is a red line that we cannot cross, at the bare minimum, they should be extremely more honest about what these systems do to your computer, and it should not be mandatory to install these systems to your computer in order to play that game. If you want to make it so people who install the anti-cheat can only play with other people who install the anti-cheat, and people who don't install the anti-cheat can only play with other people who don't install the anti-cheat, by all means, okay. But if we are going to continue allowing these systems to be installed en masse to every single computer in the world, look, I'm just going to tell you, devil's advocate, if I was an adversary, if you were to put me in the shoes of someone that wanted to do harm to this country and maybe other countries, I would absolutely use this 100%. If I was an adversary. And I don't want people to get mad at me for saying that. I think a big part of being able to defend yourself and see these issues is to see yourself in the shoes of the person that wants to hurt you. And when I put myself in the shoes of somebody that would want to do us harm, this is exactly a strategy I would use. This is exactly what I would do. I would create products that my adversary would have their population willingly install that gives them full access to information that I can then later use against them. Will they actually do that? Is that actually their intention? Does it matter? Does it matter? No, it doesn't. At least not in my opinion. So, if you have any thoughts about this, please let me know in the comments. This may or may not be the last video I make about this because there are lots, and I mean lots, of extremely troubling, disturbing things in the industry going on right now that I think only a small portion of people can see and understand. But they are serious problems. Issues that are not just going to affect the industry, but might actually affect much more than that. National security, other issues, I'm not sure. But the point is that is a problem enough that people need to know about this. If there are any companies that I used to work for that are going to try and retaliate against me explaining this, I will be utilizing protections as a whistleblower, which would be super lame and stupid if I have to do that. But by God, if you force me, we will go that route. Because I would like to say that when I make this video, people respond as, man, that's a serious problem. You're right. We should be thinking about that. But if they get hostile with me, if they start trying to shut me down, I will actually say that's probably a sign that the intentions are not so pure. Because this should be a universal thing that everyone wants to fix, right? And if not, why? That's what I would like to know. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.